Welcome to Try Not to Overthink It, where we explore the intricate landscape of mental health, well-being, and everyday life. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
Join us as we dive into insightful conversations, expert perspectives, and personal stories that shed light on the various dimensions of mental wellness. Whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or deeper understanding of the human mind, this podcast is your safe space to engage, learn, and navigate the journey to a happier, healthier self. So today we are talking about dysfunctional behavior. This particular topic has been one that I've been wanting to talk about for a while because of the fact that we are just constantly, every single day, there's somebody else doing something that's just completely outlandish and just all over the place. And then they're confused as to why they are in the space that they are in or in the spot that they are in. So I thought it was important for us to kind of unpack that topic today and talk about it. So for me, as a therapist,
I'm nervous.
for me as a therapist, I'm one of those people that I will ask people, so how did you think that was going to work out for you? The reason I ask that question is because I want them to kind of process what they did and then also their first, second, third order effects that stem from that decision. And the reason I ask that is because it's different for me as a therapist to tell you that what you did probably wasn't the best decision versus you walking through and processing that it wasn't the best decision. And when we look on the internet, when we look on Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, there's a new story, a new event, a new series, a new trial of somebody doing something completely silly that they didn't really think their way through. And then now they've come to the internet and they want everyone to know about it. And it just blows my mind that people then find themselves in certain spaces or certain places or spots. And then they're just confused at how they got there. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think with the age of the boom of social media, you have a seat to people's foolishness that we didn't have before. Because, I mean, you look at shows like The Dukes of Hazzard. It was a whole TV series based on people doing things that were dysfunctional and irrational. You're like, how? How did that make sense to you? That, Jerry Springer, Cops, like these shows are based on, like, the premise of the show is based on people doing things that just don't make any sense, right? It's like you didn't think about how that, like, what the end result was going to be. But now with social media, I think people just have access on their phone to create this type of content, right? So they have the ability to pull out their phone and show them with the funny things. Like I've seen guys jumping off of stuff and like trying to shoot the basketball from the balcony. So those are cute and funny, right? But then you have things like people fighting on the internet. And you're like,
yeah,
just a crime. You can't just commit assault and battery and don't think there's going to be any consequences.
Yeah.
You've seen people, I think it was a news story about a lady who was teaching her daughter how to wax, like a 5-year-old how to wax clients, but the 5-year-old was actually waxing nude
I
women.
saw that.
Just nude adults, and they were like, the internet was in
CPS on her.
They called CPS on her, right? So we are in an age now where there is no filter between, okay, this is just something that I'm considering and something that I think I want to share with the world, because you have, like, with the age of influencing and content creation, people with the genre being lifestyle, content, people think that everything is content.
Yeah.
If I'm on the bathroom, if I'm sleeping, if I'm having an argument, if I'm doing other things, everything goes on the internet. People have disciplined their kids on the internet.
Yes.
Right? People have had full-on disagreements that should not make it to the internet, have made it to the internet. People's divorce proceedings, like some of the celebrities, their divorce proceedings have ended up on the internet. Sex tapes have ended up on, like, these social media platforms. And it's just like people, I think, because of that, Raj, when you talk about just irrational behavior and behavior that is not clearly thought out. I think some of that can be attributed to just the age of the internet that we live in currently.
Culture. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I had a funny experience yesterday. So my stepson comes in the day before he was taking his little prep test for the ACT. He's a junior, so I'm pumping him up. I'm like, you got to take this test. You got to do what you got to do. I want you to be ready. I want you to be focused when you go into the testing. So yesterday he goes into the testing center, and he said he sat down, and most of the juniors were there, and he was tired in the morning. He said he just put his head down for a second. He said when he popped his head up, two girls had started jumping another girl. He said they came in fully prepared, and they came in with their bonnets on, and they came in like, B, what's up? Let's get it. And they start throwing punches, right? Well, the young girl who was sitting there trying to get ready to take her ACT, this is for her college. This is for her life. These two other girls could care less, and they were juniors as well. They should have been prepared for the ACT. They got
To be
thrown out of
sitting
the
there
testing
as
exam.
well.
Right. But this is what they learn on the internet. And luckily, they weren't allowed to have their phones because they were in the testing center, so they couldn't record it, because normally this would have been recorded. Y'all know how they do in high schools, right? It hurt me because all three of them technically could have thrown away their college careers, their career period, because you can't take the test anymore once you get into an altercation. They said once all that stuff happens, you're not allowed to retake the test. They're thinking about helping the other young lady out who got jumped, so she can get her test. But this is their future, and they threw away their future to do some hot girl shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what they were thinking, but when you come in with your bonnet on, that means you're already prepared to get, you know what I'm saying? You're like, hey, this is what we doing. We coming in speaking with our hands. We're not, there's nothing else going on. We're not worried about our futures. And that scares me for today's kids because, as you know, I grew up in a Caribbean household. I'm well aware of what Babylon is. And technical, if we put that in technical terms here, to put it in context, it's confusion, right? The world, what's perverse is no longer perverse, right? What's right is no longer right. What's wrong is right. It's everything is backwards. And we have to understand that that's the standard that's going to go on and go forth from now on. We always have to understand when you're out here, a lot of this is confusion. This isn't what it's supposed to be, but this is what the world portrays is okay. And it's very dysfunctional. And you can't get caught up in it because those two young girls who decide to do that, you might not have a career after this because you made one bad decision.
Well, I think it's normalized. It's normalized and glamorized a lot of times,
Yes.
because people been fighting since they've been on this earth. Okay,
Right.
Right. People been duking it out since. And so I think now it's just glamorized that I can still do all of this foolishness, and I can still live a decent life.
Prosperous life, right? Yeah.
I can write bad checks, and I can scam and go to prison for it and come out and be a famous rapper and get millions. Okay? I can be in prison one day and be on Billboard, number one on Billboard charts the next, right? Because this is what they say. They have celebrities. Oh, I could just be a YouTuber. I could just become a content creator. I could blow up on TikTok because this is what they see, right? So nothing is real anymore. Nothing has consequences because of social media. It's just like, well, that doesn't apply to me.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's the part for me that bothers me is the fact that children aren't, well, the younger generation, I won't even say just children, but the younger generation are not being shown what right looks like. It's okay to, like Khalil, alluded to with his example, to just be in public squabbling, swapping hands with somebody. Instead of using our words to navigate through our differences or our issues, we're gonna talk with our hands.
Right.
Because that's what we show. But I mean, to me, there have been times where I've been mad at somebody, but sitting down and talking through it saved us from getting to that point. So when you're shown on TV that that's the thing to do, to take a drink and throw it in somebody's face,
right,
flipping tables, acting like you've never been someplace before, or even in relationships where you're just moving and not really thinking things through, again, when you see dysfunctional or maladaptive behavior become normalized, you start to think that's the way to
That's
do
okay,
things.
right?
And I mean, like when, like we've talked about Risa Tisa before on here, where you as an adult made decision after decision after decision after decision. By no means am I making what he did okay, but to be in a relationship, it takes two people.
Yeah.
So there's some decisions that were made on his half, and there were decisions that were made on your half. And so for you to make poor decision after poor decision after poor decision, then you come to the internet and share this long drawn out narrative of what happened with this gentleman.
Right.
And then your dysfunctional decision making is then rewarded with sponsorships and trips and interviews and endorsements. It's like, what lesson does that really teach people at that point?
But at the
So
same
I can
time,
be dysfunctional as long as it's entertaining.
but at
Exactly. And so
sharing a story that other people can actually understand the narrative because they've done it too. And that they'll actually feel for her because they're like, oh man, that happened to me. And I'm like, you allowed that to happen to you?
And that's where, like, for me, like, this brings back like when Lawrence Fishburne's daughter decided she was going to make a sex tape and use her real name.
Use her real name, right?
Because Kim Kardashian became famous from her sex tape.
Exactly.
So because she became famous and she became a multimillionaire and rich and wealthy and out there in the public view off of a sex tape, I can do the same thing. So you go out here and you use your real name to make a porn tape. And so for me as a person,
didn't even get any sponsorship out of it. I don't believe.
Didn't get anything. So you brought shame to your family name. Because the thing is, like I tell people all the time, your name doesn't just belong to you. You don't just represent yourself.
Not that last
you
one,
represent you represent your tribe, you represent your family.
First one might it's just yours. That last
one,
no,
that's a gift. It's alone. Okay.
And that's where you're out here, you're who you are in regards to, your last name. Your name has weight.
Yeah.
And so you are out here taking value away from your name by attaching it to foolishness and silliness. And I mean, when we watch shows like Love and Hip Hop, where that's what they're doing, they're just acting a fool on TV. And this is what we're pushing.
Bad Girls Club. Let's look at Bad Girls Club. Bad Girls Club was probably one of the worst shows ever.
Yeah.
Did I watch
Absolutely.
it? Watched it down, baby. I used to love some Bad Girls Club. But when I got to one point, I was like, why am I so angry?
Because that's what I'm watching all day long.
Right? Because of what I was consuming. And then I was just like, when I took a step back and then really looked at it, I was like, these girls really joined this show to get on
to act up on TV,
to fight, to go out to establishments and to have lascivious behavior,
hook up with random people.
Right.
Why? Like, why is this the pinnacle of what of your existence?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
And when you grow up and you finally self-actualize, a lot of those people are like, that was just done. I don't know why I was doing that.
Detached from that. Let's look at, you talked about Kim Kardashian and her sex tape. I am assuming when Kim made that sex tape, it was with Ray J, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When Kim made that sex tape with Ray
years
J,
old.
Yeah, she was young and dumb. Mm-hmm. Kim Kardashian now, as a mom and as a businesswoman, a wife, a businesswoman, she is not proud of that. And she's like, my kids are big. Like, I don't want my children knowing that was something that's attached to me. Right? Mm-hmm. When you're young and dumb, do something come because of ignorance? Yeah. Because you don't know until you know. Okay? I am the queen of saying that. You won't know until you know you didn't know. Right. So some things are going to come just out of sheer maturity and learning more. Right? So you're like, ooh, that wasn't it. But
that didn't age well.
That didn't age well. But then there are some things, right, that people have already made that mistake. And I need not do that. because I am
Yes.
seeing how this is aging for them. And
Right.
let's not be so disillusioned or delusional to think that I am some unicorn in the world and it won't happen to me. I don't believe that I'm a unicorn. I believe that I am of the ant variety. I look and behave like all the rest of them jokers. When it comes to bad stuff happening, nope. If it's possible, it's a great chance it might happen to me. I'm just
Right.
not gonna try that.
Right.
Yeah.
Not worth
I'm not gonna
risking your
chance
career,
it.
your life. Nah, it's
I'm
not
not
worth
gonna
And
chance it. I'm of the ant variety. If it happened to that ant, it's gonna happen to me. I'm
it.
not doing it. I'm not a unicorn.
Right.
Although
Right.
my name is close to uni, I got the uni, no corn, but
Well, and so when
no.
kids are watching these things, right? Especially with the new way they do stuff on TikTok. I mean, everything's short little clips, the way they do it on Facebook, YouTube, right? We get in these clips and we see people do dysfunctional things. We laugh at it, right? But subconsciously, we're receiving that message.
Yeah.
People don't understand that. And if I see that every single day, I'm watching someone fight, argue, jump people, hit people, do hit and runs. I saw a lady do hit and run the other day, right? So I'm in Walmart. This is a perfect way for an example, right? So I'm hopping out my car, right? I turn around and I see this lady backing up, and I'm like, shh, stay away from her. I'm making sure I don't get hit. She takes a hard turn into the back. And like I guess she looked like she had some headphones on, y'all. So I look at her, and when she pressed on the gas as she's backing up, I'm like, you pressing on the gas mighty fast. Boom, hits another lady's car. The lady is walking out of Walmart at this time, so I try to flag her down. I was, hey, yo, you just hit somebody. Hey, hey. She peels off. I'm talking about out of the parking lot. There's cameras everywhere in Walmart, right? So I explained to the lady what I saw. Another guy, he had to jump in there too. I was like, I'm talking, but everybody's so dysfunctional. They want to get in and be a part of it. He's like, I saw what kind of car she was driving, Saturn, or this or that, da da da. And I was like, look, man, I say, there's a camera. Just go run the camera back. I said, the people at Walmart will help you. But the whole point of the story is we see stuff like that on shorts all the time. I've seen it.
yeah.
People get in accidents, right? She was doing several things at one time. Like I said, she looked like she had headphones on, like Beats headphone, y'all. Like some weird stuff going on. And like she just looked like she couldn't even drive. She looked pretty young. I don't know what was up with her. But when she hit it and I showed her what she did, I said, yo, her eyes got big and she just peeled out. Probably had no insurance, probably didn't have a license. Whatever the case is, that's learned behavior. That I don't stop, and RJ knows about this. I do not stop after an accident and give my insurance information and leave my phone number. I don't do those things now. I don't have to.
Oh,
That's what people have learned.
I'm even one better. I was away for work in California, and I left my car at the family member's house who I was staying with at the time. My 15-year-old cousin got in the car. Well, she stole my car.
Stole the car, right? Say it right.
Stole the car.
Stole it.
With her and her friends were posting it on the internet of them just like leaning on the car, chilling. So not only did they steal the car, they hotboxed it. Meaning, like, if you don't know what that is,
Yeah, if you don't know what that is,
and left the remnants of all their weed smoking in my vehicle, and then crashed it and abandoned it.
I left it. Yeah.
I did not know my car was stolen until the cops called me because it's registered to me. They show up at my grandmother's house looking for me, and she's like, I've never gotten in any type of legal trouble. My grandmother's like, you looking for my granddaughter? What happened to my granddaughter? Because clearly something had to happen, right? If you guys are at my door. Oh, well, she was in an accident. Her car was in an accident. She's like, so she's calling me. My dad's calling me, but I'm in California and I'm not receiving calls because I'm working. And so by the time I finally got to my phone, I had numbers from like the police, like the police chief called my phone. Everybody was looking for me now. So they were like, ma'am, are you aware that someone had your car? I was like, no. No, I'm in California. What do you mean?
Right,
Someone
like,
has
right.
my
I'm not
car.
driving a car. I'm in Cali.
Right. Your car has been in an accident. I said, oh God. My first rational thought, I said, oh God, was anybody hurt? Like, what happened? And they're like, no, no one was hurt, but there was destruction of property, and your vehicle is pretty banged up. We wanted to let you know and see, like, get to the bottom of it. So somehow I went on the internet, and I think I called my aunt and was just like, my car was stolen. Did your daughter use my car? No, 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 no. I went to the
Pull up
internet,
that Facebook.
pulled up Instagram.
Oh,
The cousin is posted up leaning on the back of the car with the key hanging from her belt. Because in
wow.
Baltimore, that's the thing. Like, people will wear their keys, like their car keys, just like hanging from like a carabiner on their pants. Like, it's a thing.
Mhm.
So that's how she's posted up. Like, it is her vehicle, with my key hanging from her, and my coat. So my coat and my keys hanging from her.
Right.
So I talked to my aunt about it. No, she didn't do it. It's not her. And I said, this is why children do the things that they do. And I attempted to press
Yep.
charges.
Got
The state
enablers.
the state did not do anything. I took her to juvie. I was like, she needs to be, prosecuted for this. They didn't do anything like that. Yes, I took my cousin. Yes, I was pressing charges on my cousin because she was a troubled youth at the time, and she was in and out of jail. And I was just like, this is why, because this is why she doesn't take anything seriously. You guys do these little slap on the wrist situations
Did
and
she
let her
eventually
back
admit to
out.
it though? Did she admit to what she did?
Nope. And to this
Wow.
day, she cannot look me in the eye and say anything to me. She doesn't say more than two words. Hey,
Hey,
cousin.
Unique. Bye.
That's it. Hey,
Hi,
cousin.
bye.
Well, most of our cousins, we call each other cousins. So, hey,
Okay.
cousin, or they call me by my nickname, Hey, Neat. And that's it. That is it. Now, am I over it? I don't even own that car no more.
Right, right, right.
I'm definitely over it, but I'll say I learned a very valuable lesson with just how people like that dysfunctional behavior is birthed. Had my aunt really been on my cousin's neck and been like, oh no, you doing something, you gonna pay for something, because you find ways to get money to smoke, so you gonna find a way to get money to pay. You gonna pay something for your cousin.
Mhm.
Nothing. No deductible was paid. No nothing. No, I'm so sorry it happened. Mm-mm. Needless to say, I left
And
that house. I moved out of there that week that I got back from
and
California.
and
I was
that
gone.
and that's the part that baffles me about the dysfunctionality that we are inundated with every day in our society is the fact that not only do we push the dysfunctional behavior, but then we never outline or point out the consequences of the dysfunctional behavior. Like we have shows like Teen Mom where
Yeah,
it follows these young girls who got pregnant, their children having children,
yeah, literal.
but they never show the consequences of children having children. They show hey, you're still able to go to school and do all these different things and live your life and go on vacations and stuff like that. But then again, it reinforces this pattern of behavior that these are a lucky few who were fortunate enough to make it on television, so you get residual checks.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You get residual checks. You get money because you on TV every
And a
single
lot of them
day.
have
I mean,
family
every single
members. A
week.
lot of them have family members who are supporting them. Like,
Exactly.
but it's real that a lot of teenagers get put out at
Mm-hmm.
14 and
Right.
15.
Exactly.
They getting put out of their
And
house.
and so for me, when I'm watching these girls be on TV, and you have professionals like Dr. Drew, nobody's having these real conversations with these young ladies of we got to make smarter decisions. Like, that's not okay.
Right.
This is not okay, and this
Right.
is why. Because again, because for some of them it's a generational
It
thing.
is.
You learned something wrong, so because you learned it wrong, you're teaching it.
Mm.
And it starts with the people that you surround yourself. Like, I always go back to the example you used about when you decided you wanted to get married. You decided to operate because you wanted to move into a different space, a different phase of your life, you decided to move into different circles. For a lot of us, we do not surround ourselves with the right people. And because we don't surround ourselves with the right people, what typically happens is we continue to learn maladaptive or negative behaviors that cause us to be in maladaptive or negative spots or spaces. And when I'm watching these people post things online, like I watched this video of this woman last week where she had this whole narrative of, she's cheating on her husband. So she's cheating on her husband because he goes to work and she's lonely. And so not he's cheating, he's doing negative things that are forcing you to cheat, but you're lonely. Okay. So rather than communicate with the person that you took vows with, you decide to step out of your marriage. Okay. That's dysfunctional behavior
number one.
Dysfunctional behavior number two.
That's going to help you get closer to this person.
That's going to fix the loneliness. But number two is now you're pregnant.
Oh.
You're pregnant not by your husband, but by the man that you've been creeping with. So not only are you
that type business. Right.
So, and then, then what makes the story even a little bit more spicy, there's a little sprinkle of mess, was the fact that you're pregnant by his brother.
That's who you chose to spend
the side man's brother?
Yeah.
No, her husband's brother.
That's who she chose to spend the time with.
So she didn't know that they were related. So she's over his house, and so she's over his house, and he's got pictures up on the wall. So she's looking at the pictures, and in the pictures, she recognizes that her husband's in one of the pictures. So she's now trying to figure out, how do they know each other? So she starts asking about just random pictures, and then asking about people in the pictures. Oh, that's my brother. Oh yeah, he's gone a lot for work and blah 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 blah. And come to find out, according to the side dude, the husband has a whole nother wife himself. But my thing is, she cheated not knowing any of that. And so for me, and I was having this conversation.
It's too much happening. Wait a minute. This was in Utah? This was in Utah.
This wasn't in, no, it wasn't in Utah.
She said that. Why has it got to be in Utah?
Because, Utah, they allow
people to be, sister marriages.
Yeah, you can have a
they allow that everywhere. What's up? It's normal. They had a whole TV show. But yeah, that whole TV show about all that polygamy and stuff.
They were polyamorous.
No,
they were not. They were a regular.
They were trying to.
They were a regular monogamous couple. She didn't know he was cheating. He didn't know she was cheating.
He couldn't have been cheating. He was polyamorous. Because if you married to two women, baby, you're just poly. How you cheating and you married to two people? So
the thing, because people were like, this story has to be made up. People were like, this story has to be made up.
It's too crazy to be made up.
Because it's too much mess in there. But my thing is, like, for me, you don't know if this man is cheating or not. You're cheating.
Right.
Because of something silly. Right. I'm lonely. And so rather than you took vows with somebody, and like for me, and I tell people this all the time, anything that my name is attached to, I take exceedingly serious.
You have to.
I stand up in front of God and in front of my family, and I took vows to do certain things. And I spit in the face of my vows that I took before God and my family by stepping outside of my marriage, rather than have a conversation and execute on this conversation with my spouse. Having a conversation with my spouse and saying, hey, I'm lonely, and this is what, because you're gone all the time. Can we work on this? Can we fix this? Instead of having a conversation, you decided to seek comfort and familiarity with somebody who was not your husband. Then and then you're not even if you're to not even make excuses for her, but then you are also having unprotected sex with someone who's not your husband. For you to potentially pick up an STD and then take it back to your husband.
Right. Woo.
So had you not seen the pictures, you would never even known your husband was cheating. So he may not have even been cheating. He may have been doing what a man is supposed to do, which was go out and provide provision and protection. He's providing for you. He's going out. That is a completely foolish reason to cheat without having a conversation with your spouse first.
Well,
So,
But we live in a day and age where you have so many people who
well,
validate
I heard something on
and
the internet, and they said that they were like, um, I think it was on TikTok. The young lady was like, "Y'all are so busy listening to everything that you hear on the internet about what men are supposed to do. Meanwhile, your man is doing, they may not be doing all those things, but you will end a happy, healthy relationship because of people who you don't know the context of their life, right? Your man's
Right.
supposed to be coming home. This lady probably was listening to somebody, had somebody in her ear. Well, girl, he ain't never there. He's supposed to be there. He's supposed to wine and dine you. He's supposed to do this. He's supposed to do that. And so in her head, she develops this thought where, well, I gotta make it happen for me.
Right.
I'm gonna make it work. And so she uprooted her happiness, what probably was happiness before it all blew up. She then ruined her happiness, ruined her semblance of a happy marriage because of stuff that she probably saw somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta understand the context of what your marriage is. I told one of my best friends, I said, every marriage is unique. There are certain things that just come with marriage as a whole. Like when you are married to someone, they're just things that come with the territory of marriage. There are
Right.
other things that are going to, how that looks is going to be as unique as people's eyelashes. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It just looks different for everybody.
Right.
You cannot look at my marriage and say, that's the marriage I'm going to have. That's the marriage I want. Because it's a different life.
It's a completely different life.
There are differences at play that's not going to allow it to look the same, right? Yes, it may have the same two people. It may have two people in it, but that doesn't mean that this two people is going to do the same as those two people. It can look totally different.
It's
But
still apples and oranges. It's never going to be the type of comparison that you're thinking about.
So,
well, I mean, for some people, I think that. Go ahead.
I just say, so when you're talking about, oh well, I'm lonely. Was it because she was looking at something else, saying this is what my marriage is supposed to look like? That's a
dysfunction.
dysfunctional thought, right? It's called the shoulds. When you get the case of the should, I should have it. They shouldn't have done that to me. They should know better. I tell my clients it's the rule for coming to do therapy. Yes, I have two rules. Come to therapy on time. If you're not gonna come, let me know. And the second one is shoulds don't exist in therapy. Okay? Shoulds don't exist in real life. If you shoulda, you woulda, you coulda. But you didn't, and that's why you're on my couch. So we're gonna deal with the what is. We're not gonna deal with the shoulds. We're not gonna get caught up in the case of the shoulds. But should, just as much as like dichotomous or black and white thinking,
right.
or magical thinking, a lot. I'm just going down the list of some dysfunctional thoughts, right? The shoulds are a part of that. When people think I should have this, I should be entitled to my spouse's time, I should be entitled to my spouse's money. No.
Exactly.
You need to have conversations about your time needs. You need to have conversations about your financial wants and needs. You need to have conversations about that type of life you guys are going to build together. But saying that you should, no one is born with this divine right to anybody else.
To anybody else.
Well,
RJ talks about that all the time. When you talk about, hey, when you get with someone, why aren't you going over your expectations or some certain, not even your expectations, your standards? Why aren't you going over these certain things when you first get together?
I tell people this all the time. Disappointment stems from unmet expectations. You, at some point in time,
uncommunicated
uncommunicated expectations. And this is where, like Khalil and I were talking about this on Sunday about Risa Tisa. You were so busy focusing on being chosen because I should be in a relationship. I should be in a relationship. I should be married. I should have a man. I should have somebody. All of these different things that you should have. You were so busy caught up on being chosen that you never chose yourself. Wow. So for me, in watching her calamity that she put on the internet, and that's where, for me, as a therapist, you don't get any sympathy from me because you were there was, as she alluded to in her very first episode, like I only needed to watch the first episode to know that this was going to be a train wreck.
Right.
And I didn't even watch the whole first episode. I watched like maybe half of it. And for you to say in the very first episode, I saw all the red flags and I just chose to.
Right.
So you made a choice right there. You chose. And for a lot of us, we choose dysfunctionality rather than choosing functionality, because being functional means that there's going to be some hard work. There's going to be sacrifices. There's going to be things that you're going to have to say no to instead of saying yes to.
I'm going to have to grow up.
Right.
Or like you and I talked about before, you are going to have to stop being who you used to be. Throw that in the trash. Because you'll have some people saying, well, this is who I've always been. Throw that in the trash. In order to be functional in different spaces of your life, different phases of your life, you have to mature and you have to
adapt to where you are.
Exactly. Like what worked for you at 1 or 2 is not going to work for you at 21, 22, 23. It's just not.
And so for some of us, your 20s not going to work for you in your 30s.
Exactly.
The things, my fertility health, because we were talking about fertility health a little while earlier, and maybe we could do an episode. If y'all want to hear an episode on how fertility can be a thing for people, I think we should have it. It's a great conversation to have, because it affects both sides. It affects men and women. But my fertility options were a lot different in my 20s than they are now in my mid-30s. They look totally different. And getting married to my husband, we had this idea that we're going to come in, things are going to be great, it's going to be easy. And to our regrets, it was not. It has been an arduous task for us, very difficult. But if I still had that mindset of, well, shoot, my 20-something-year-old self could do this and have this, and it was easy then, and still held on to that same notion in my 30s, I'd be in a different space emotionally, right? I would be looking at some severe disappointment. Mm-hmm. Being able to mature through that was not easy, right? It did come with a lot of heartache and disappointment. But now being at this point, it's just like, is there still a bit of sadness? Yeah, of course. But there's a space that has grown that says, well, I'm excited about what this new process can look like, right? What are the other options that I have? And so I think sometimes we talked about this on a few episodes back, we're being able to identify, yes, it is scary. Yes, it is going to be difficult, but staying here means that I will cease to exist. And so in order to continue to live, I have to move forward. Right? I have to create space for myself to grow and to mature. And again, we're not talking about maturity in the sense of age. Right?
That's like, not it.
Immature. No, we're not downing anyone.
It's a mindset.
We're talking about your mental capacity, your emotional maturity, relational maturity, being able to be in relationships with other people, in healthy, effective, communicative relationships with other people. That kind of stuff is important when you're talking about dysfunction and having rational and functional thought patterns. It's being able to have some insight and say, if I do this, and using, like I tell P all the time, so P, you gotta use your cognitive skills, baby. Because I get to do some stuff, and granted, she's 10, so there's lots of grace there. But I said, now P, you didn't think that if you laid down outside in the dirt, that your pants was gonna have dirt on them?
Dirt stains on it, right?
Well, mommy, when you say it like that, I said, well, Pete, at 10, you gotta start saying it like that. Right. You gotta think about that sort of thing. I just didn't think about it, mommy. And I said, Pete, but you gotta think about it. You can't just
processing and reasoning at 10 should look a lot different when you get to 25, right?
Yes,
So that's what
with hope.
scares me. That's what scares me
With
about
hope.
our culture, right? It's like,
Yeah, people
well,
still rolling
there's
in
no
the dirt
processing
at 25.
at 25. There's no processing. Like you talk to kids these days. I've talked to young adults, teenagers, and you start talking to them. The processing is different. It's a lot different than it was back in the day. And I do believe a lot of it stems from social media, learned behaviors. I don't really think, I don't think like they can't process. I just believe it's learned behaviors that this is acceptable to think, to go off of impulse, right? And like I want everything now, right? The instant gratification, the not thinking before I do something, and the implications that could come from this, the consequences that could come for this, right? And so when everything that you all are saying, it comes down to decision making, right? None of the situations are overall bad situations, right? Like Marsha Linehan says, there's no good, there's no bad, there just is, right? It's about our decision making in the circumstance. Like Unique, you're going through something that's a very difficult situation, right? But you're making better decisions. When people go through situations, it's about the decision making that you're doing, the reasoning, like you just were saying. You have to be able to be rational about some of these things that we're doing. And it scares me being in this type of culture. Like I said, the lady, she made a decision on the instant after she hit that lady's car. I'm going to peel out because it looks good. It looks sexy.
Reactionary. Well, no, she was just reactionary. And I
Right.
think sometimes our reactions can be trauma based,
Trauma.
right?
Right.
Where I am making a decision that's either going to have me to fight, flight, on, or freeze.
Right.
Yeah, some people make trauma informed decisions. Some people
Yeah.
make emotion based decisions. Some people make very rational based decisions. And you're like, okay, I get it, but that was a little harsh,
Hard.
right?
Right. Right.
You got to consider how that's going to affect other people. And then there are some people who are able to make what we call in DBT therapy, who make wise decisions,
Wise
right?
decision.
They
Right.
consider the emotional implications and the rational, and then they figure out what's the best with both of those combined. This is what
Yeah,
I'm
the
feeling.
balance.
This is what I need to do. I'm going to balance the two, right? And so when we're talking about helping people find that, because I think I always like that we leave people with a little hope of, okay, you didn't said all of this, and yeah, I'm one of them people who are irrational. How to move from that irrational thought to a more rational thought? One of those ways is putting it on trial.
Right.
How is this going to affect me? Am I still going to feel the same way about this a day from now,
Right.
a month from now, a year
Matter.
from now?
Right.
Right? If I would have posed this same idea to my closest friend, would they do the same thing or
Right.
no? Right? Being able to say, you know what? I'm letting my feelings get in the way.
Exactly.
These are some of the steps you can
It's
take
so difficult.
without having to enroll in therapy. I think you should enroll in therapy. I think everybody should enroll in therapy,
Right. Right.
just for maintenance. But I think these are some of the first steps you can take to even maybe a rational thought. You know what? I'm having a problem differentiating my feelings from my actions.
Right.
I need a little help with that. I'm gonna go to a therapist. Or
Right.
just say, I want to be more cognizant of how I'm responding to people. Am I
Right.
responding when my capacity is low or my tolerance for people are low? Or am I responding when my tolerance for people is high? I tell people who like hot food, right? Let's talk about ramen noodles. Roger Mel might hate, he might not eat ramen, he's bougie.
He
Oh,
I
eating
do eat
I
them
ramen.
do
kimchi
eat
noodles. He eating them kimchi
kimchi,
noodles.
and I ain't talking about like just the top
No,
ramen. I'm
no.
talking
I
about the
like the
good
spicy
ramen.
kimchi.
Okay,
Right.
ramen, the Asian ramen. So when you have a bowl
Yeah,
of
the
soup,
real
a
one.
bowl of ramen soup, right? Whether you get it from a restaurant, the 10-cent one from your grocery store. Most of us are not gonna have the ramen, cook it whether we cook it on the stove or the microwave, take it out of there and just throw it in our mouth. Most of us not gonna do that with no blowing, no nothing. We're not just gonna take boiling hot water and just eat it. Why? Because it ain't gonna taste good. You're gonna scald your tongue and it's not gonna taste good. Does that mean that the ramen is bad? No, the ramen is a perfectly fine. It just was too hot to take.
Right.
So you gotta let it cool. You gotta blow it, right? Go get your beverage, get your show ready on Netflix, and then you can eat the ramen. Okay? We've allowed it to cool down so that it can become enjoyable.
Yeah.
Communication is a lot like
Mhm.
hot ramen. If you don't let it cool, it will be unflavored and it will be damaging to the person who receives that communication.
Mhm.
But the same thing that you wanted to communicate, if you just give it time to cool off a little bit, it could be a delectable meal. Choose,
Yeah.
give yourself time and space for your words to be enjoyable and not something that's going to make somebody want to spit it right back out.
Yeah.
I think that like what both you guys were alluding to was like the prioritization of certain things. Being able to put certain things in an order of
Yeah.
importance. I think that for a lot of us nowadays, we don't operate kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We don't operate in that direct order of importance. I was spending some time with some people weekend before last, and it was one of the children was running around. She had been no more than maybe 3. Now you're not potty trained. You can't read. These are but lyrics
Right.
to a sexy red song.
Dysfunctional.
And so for me, like
It's a
I was taken aback
Mm-mm.
because I'm like, we're prioritizing the lyrics to a rap song over things that are things that you are
And
going to need in that
that's the
next phase
parents'
of your
problem.
life.
right.
That's the caregiver's problem.
Dysfunctional.
And and
That's
and
why
and
they
that's
listen
where
to
for
sexy
me,
red.
like,
Well, that's what's on the
yeah.
radio
And I mean,
station.
like,
That's what's on in
They're
the
gonna
house
listen
all day
to
long.
Miss
That's what they're
Rachel
playing
and what's
on
the
the
little
pod.
and
black girl, Gracie's Corner. They put this on Gracie's Corner and
yeah.
Miss Rachel.
And I've said this in previous episodes. Everything on you that takes in
Mhm.
information is a gate.
Eyes,
So your
ears.
eyes, your
Right.
nose, your mouth, your ears, all of those things are gates. You have to be very cognizant of what you are there. There's a reason there's a lock on the gate because everything outside the gate is not meant
Mhm.
to be inside the gate. And so, you have to prioritize what gets inside the gate and when it gets inside the gate. I'm not going to teach a kid how to drive a car
Right.
before they're potty trained because it just doesn't make any sense
Well,
to do it
before
in
they
that
know
order.
how to read.
Now, at some point in time, you will
Yeah.
exactly because you're not going to be able to operate a
Yeah.
car
Operate
if you can't
safely.
even read. In regards to where you're supposed to stop instead of yield, slow down instead of speed up. Like you're not gonna because you can't read. You don't know numbers. You don't know colors. You don't know shit. There's things that you have to do in sequential order. And I think that for a lot of us, we tend to put things in the wrong order in
Yeah.
regards to priority, which is why we find ourselves in chaotic messes all the time. And this is where, for me, I'm the person that I like. I'm a huge proponent of accountability. At some point in time, we have to take stock of how did I keep finding myself in these bad spots. And sometimes when you map it out, because I have people do diagrams. If you're a person that comes to me and you're just always in a catastrophe or a calamity all the time, here's a piece of paper, here's a pencil. Let's navigate through this. And I have people do diagrams. You'll have some people come in and every relationship they were in, the person was toxic.
Yeah.
They were a
They,
cheater.
they, they,
They were
yeah.
this, they were that. But my thing is, as I explained to them, if they were all from different walks of life, different ages, different races, different religions, what connecting thread did they all have that you saw in them? Guess what? You have a type. And because you have a type, you made a choice to continuously pick
Right.
those type of people. You knew that they were a catastrophe or calamity when you got with them, but you still chose to get with them. So to sit here and put it all on them, like there wasn't some poor decision making that was on your part as well, you find yourself in these particular situations. And so for me, like when I started reframing it, and making people take accountability, people start
Mhm.
making better decisions because people are now aware that the decision making they were doing
Yeah.
was poor. The choices, the way that you were choosing the people you surround yourself with
Yeah.
was poor. If you are wanting to have things that you've never had, you got to be willing to do things you've never done. And sometimes that means getting rid of people that you know just from onset that they're not
and
the right
changing
person
certain
for you.
behaviors that no longer work for you to some behaviors that might be more beneficial.
Yeah.
Precisely. And that's where for me it just kind of it grinds my gears when I hear people make it seem like everything is
Right.
happening to
Victimization.
them rather than them
But
choose
we
to
talked
be in
about
certain
that. We talked about
spaces.
how that is a release of your power, right?
Mhm.
When you continue
Mhm.
to see yourself as the victim and not the solution, you give that power away. The moment you
Right.
start to see yourself as, okay, things have happened, but I also have the power to navigate through my existence, I then take the power back and I
Right.
become autonomous to my success, right? I become the leader of my forward momentum.
Right.
That's a decision,
Yeah, well,
right?
what's in my
That's a
locus of
choice.
control? That's what they talk
Mhm.
about, the locus of control.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When I sit there and I play the victim, oh, they did this to me. Don't you see what they're doing to me? Right? Of course, I don't. You're acting like you don't have any control over certain situations, right? When you do have a lot. I have control over the way I react to things. We were talking
The
about
way
being
I
reactive.
respond.
How I respond to things. You don't have to make the choice to do some
Mhm.
of the things you do. This is what you're choosing to do.
Right. And that's not to say that you won't go endure hurt. You
Right.
do.
Right.
A
Right.
book that I share with one of my clients, it talks about how it talks about distress tolerance, and it says when you pain is inevitable, right? You're gonna
Right.
go if you live life, you're gonna suffer. I mean, you're gonna have pain, right? You're gonna succumb to pain at one point in your life. But suffering is optional.
Right.
There are people
Mhm.
who go through heinous things. I told a client, I said, you can go through a traumatizing event without being traumatized.
Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
could argue me with that.
Exactly.
I think people could
No,
definitely
a lot of
argue.
come
But
on.
people have gone through traumatizing events, house fires,
Mm-hmm.
shoot, I'll use myself. I growing up, we had an old van. Like that thing was ancient, okay? That baby was like a Econo line conversion van. I don't if y'all don't know what it is, go look it up. It was
Probably
big,
conversion man. Yeah.
boxy, and old. Okay? That thing caught on fire while we were driving it.
Yeah.
Like the bottom, it was like something that you
Yeah.
see on TV, like flames were coming out of the bottom of the car. It was traumatic, okay? It was a
Of course.
traumatizing event. But did that stop me from driving cars? No.
No.
We got in that same van the next day.
Well, now that right there, I'm gonna have to talk to your dad about the decision making.
No. Well, because my dad didn't know. We were like, we put the fire out, took it to the shop. They were like, no, it's good. We don't know what happened. That was just like some spontaneous situation. It happened again, and then my mama said, you ain't put my children in that
Children in
vehicle.
that van. Right. I'm surprised. Yeah, mom. I know mom had to switch up on that one. No. What are
Oh,
you?
it's like, oh, not my babies, okay?
Yeah.
No.
Were these mechanics in
But
Baltimore?
no. We were in South Carolina at the
Oh,
time, and I
well, all
think
right.
I think rightfully so. I don't think it was to any problem with the mechanic. I think that it was just such a spontaneous event. You don't really know what's going on
What
unless
caused
you're
it?
able to see
Right.
the catalyst of the fire. But it was just something where it's like, wow, to tell people that they're like, and you still drive cars? Yeah, I still drive. I'm not afraid of my car catching on fire. As you can see, I laughed about it, and not from a place of, oh my gosh, this is just, I'm trivializing it. But it's just like, wow, we really went through that. Like, that's something
Right.
crazy. But it did not traumatize me. I was not afraid to get in vehicles. I don't think every vehicle is going to catch on fire. Because that just wasn't a frame of reference that I allowed myself to get to.
Right.
There are going to be traumatizing things that are going to happen in your life. Some of the things that happen, they do, and we do succumb to trauma, right? And it is unavoidable, right? Like, wow, that took a toll on me mentally and emotionally.
Right.
The healing process is still a choice. You can heal
You can't heal.
through that
Right.
trauma, right? You can overcome that. Now, there were several accidents. I'm just talking about car related incidents. My recent accident happened. It was in a rainstorm, and the car I was driving lost power. And so the car did a 360 turn. I spun to the other side of traffic that I was in. Um, and so I was afraid to drive the vehicle. And I was afraid to drive in the rain for a little bit after that. It probably took me like maybe 4 or 5 months to start driving in the rain again. And I mean,
Mhm.
I was literally shaking with fear.
Sucking
My
up for it.
husband,
Right.
I was driving and I said, I can't. He said, why can't you drive? Just drive the car. I was like, no, I can't. It's going to spin out of control again. And
Anxiety.
before he said, pull over, I'll drive. It's okay. And I didn't get in the passenger. I got in the back seat of the car because I was just so shooken up about it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so
I'm
my man
going in
said,
the
you were
backseat.
shooken up about that, but you weren't shooken up about the car catching on fire. Trauma affects
Yeah,
us
different ways of
differently, right?
perceiving it. Right.
Traumatization can affect you differently. So being able to say, all right, well, now I recognize that I couldn't just not drive ever again because my husband would not allow that. Girl, all right, we're
We're
gonna
gonna
have
get
to
through
work that
this.
out.
You're gonna learn how to drive.
Okay, you gonna have to.
You're gonna have
So
to learn how to do this.
I had to ease back in, but in
Right.
the easing back in, I had lots of conversations with him about my discomfort with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he helped me go through some of the irrational thinking because my
Right.
irrational thoughts were that, oh my gosh, it's gonna happen again. And so
Right.
he said, Neek, no, listen, there's nothing wrong with this car that you're driving. This car has never done that before in the rain. You are capable of driving. I've seen you drive in the rain before, and that didn't happen. You were not a bad driver. You were not the reason why the car malfunctioned. Let's look at the rational parts. That car malfunctioned. Okay.
Right.
Now we got to deal with what is. So as I started to deal with the more rational parts of it, it helped me with my irrational fear that it was going to happen again.
Again.
Even
Right.
though my brain said this is a very realistic thing, no, but I am in control of it. So when it starts to rain, I have to get my anxiety in check. And I say, okay, now that doesn't mean I don't do my safety checks. Are the tires good? Do I have good windshield wipers? Am I driving at a
Which
safe
people
speed?
should do anyway. Unique. I tell people make sure, especially when the environment is wet, it's slick, it's rainy, it's snowing. You need to check your tires. You need to do your rotation on your tires. Check your windshield wipers. These things should be done anyway, so
Mhm.
you're not putting yourself in an unsafe
Am
situation.
I making sure that there are no lights or warnings on my vehicle?
Vehicle,
And so,
right?
yes, now I am more cautious, but I am not in any way do I allow that trauma to inform my way of living. And so that's what I was telling you guys about, just like how a rational thought. You got to make sure you're checking through your trauma and say, okay, did something bad happen to me? Have I healed or processed through that? And if I'm not able to do it by myself, maybe I need the assistance of a friend or loved one, or maybe a trained healthcare professional.
Right. Yeah.
I think
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm saying trained healthcare professional because it could be a psychologist, a
Yeah. Doctor.
psychiatrist, a
Yeah.
doctor, a mental health therapist. Like there are different trained medical professionals
That
who
can help.
will help you with that.
Mhm.
But that could be the first step of getting the healing that you need.
Right. Well, in a part of the cognitive distortions that I think people have, especially when it comes to relationships, that can be dysfunctional. Earlier, RJ, you alluded to the woman said she was lonely, right? What is it about being alone that causes you whatever level of anxiety or depression that you're having, right?
Her
Why is it
impressions
that you
are
yeah, look, well, why is it that you have a problem being by yourself? Why is it that you need someone else to be codependent on, right? Those are things that I have a lot of my patients look at because I've heard I was bored. That's why I did that dysfunctional thing, right? Are you sure that's the reason why you did it, right? I was tired of being by myself, right? we've got to look at some of those motives, especially when we're talking about therapeutically. Why? Always ask yourself why. I need to look at my motives. Why did I choose that? Why did I make that choice? And am I making this choice, like you were saying, Unique, from maybe my cup being empty, right? I was stressed. I was tired. I could not make a good informed decision. What was going on with me at that time? How was this thinking? Is this a pattern? Like RJ said, is this a pattern? I'm always choosing these type of men. Those are the difficult things that people don't want to do. That's my problem. You're going to have to learn how to look at yourself and put a lot of these thoughts on trial if you're having constant thought distortions.
Because only if you want to be healthy.
If you want to be
healthy, don't want to be healthy, and you like the mayhem that comes your way, please keep it. Just get Allstate insurance.
I'll watch it on a short. I'll watch it on a YouTube short or Instagram clip.
Isn't Allstate the guy who has mayhem? Isn't mayhem with Allstate?
The driver. And he be killing every time there's an accident, stuff, trees and limbs busting out.
You like mayhem and you like dysfunction. Don't listen to anything we said.
Right.
Please don't. Listen to the first half of the episode and you'll be just fine.
So we're going to end the conversation there. This is Try Not to Overthink It signing out.
I'm Unique.
I'm RJ.
And I'm Khalil.
If you like what you heard, we ask that you stop by the YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe. We can be found on YouTube as Try Not to Overthink It. If you would prefer to listen to us, I don't know why you would, because we're very good looking people. Please stop by. Our podcast can be found pretty much anywhere that you can find your audio files. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Audible. Your mama's house, the dog's house, pretty much any place that you can get your audio files we can't be listened to. So this is us signing out. We will catch you next time. Peace.